Hello and welcome to This Week in Business. This is a video series that I'm going to start, very much inspired by Atrioc's Marketing Mondays, and much like some of his Marketing Mondays, I'm uploading this on a fucking Wednesday. So, to start off with, I just want to say this will be about various pieces of news that I've been reading throughout the week that have to do with business, international commerce, and the like. But I want to start with something that's fairly close to home here in the West, which is Microsoft. They have found themselves in a class action lawsuit against them for a £1 billion in damages, according to UK businesses. What is happening here is that Microsoft offers a cloud storage service to various businesses in the UK. But the lawsuit alleges that Microsoft has been engaging in anti competitive practices because if, let's say, that you're a UK business and you need a cloud storage service, your options are going to be the Microsoft ones, or you have others, such as Google, Amazon, even Alibaba has one. But these other companies still have to pay Microsoft for software anyways, making them have to raise their own prices for their cloud storage services. Meaning that essentially, if you want to have one of these services at your disposal, which are fairly essential for today's business world, you either go with Microsoft's cheaper option or the other guys, which are going to be more expensive because they have to pay Microsoft for licenses and stuff. So the lawsuit alleges that this has cost about £1 billion in damages to various UK businesses, and it's a lawsuit that represents all businesses unless they opt out to not be represented by the lawsuit. Now, this sort of lawsuit against big tech and regarding cloud storaging services and the like are fairly new. The first one only came out in 2015, so we don't really have too much of a precedent as to what can happen out of this. But who knows? Maybe something comes out of this. Maybe this does force Microsoft to be more competitive. Maybe it doesn't happen. Maybe nothing changes. Who knows? But this is something that's happening. I think it was interesting to see Microsoft in hot water in the UK. And yeah, simple. The next piece of news has to do with the European Union and a particular block of South America called Mercosur. Now, everyone knows the European Union, lots of countries from Europe form part of it. Mercosur, however, is formed mainly by Argentina, Paraguay, Uruguay, and Brazil. And these two economic blocs are looking to make a new trade deal to lower tariffs and simplify custom procedures between themselves. The reason for this is, well, there's a lot of reasons. Mainly the fact that the European Union and a lot of its car manufacturing industry is really suffering right now because they're not being able to compete, in particular with Chinese electric vehicles. A big part of this is because China has a supply chain that lets them create an entire EV without many problems. In particular, the batteries. They can make batteries super easily in China, something that the European Union countries that have a car industry just aren't very capable of doing because they don't have access to raw materials. But what countries have access to these raw materials? Those in Mercosur. So they're trying to make these deals come about because they want to be able to have more access to raw materials to make batteries so that they can then have their car industries compete with the Chinese EV ones. That's like one of the big parts about this trade deal. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows because France, Italy, and Poland have concerns that because farming regulations and laws and payments are much less strict in Mercosur, that this is going to fuck over their own farmers in the European Union. So they're kind of pushing back on it. They're not super happy about it, but unsurprisingly, Germany is really interested in trying to make this a reality. They've just started talking about it. They haven't really come to a conclusion again, but I found it to be interesting because these two blocks cover 20% of the global commerce and have about 700 million people in them. It's not a small part of the world's economy. So if this goes through, yeah, it's quite likely that things regarding farming and That sort of goods are probably going to be affected in the European Union, but it's also probably going to give them lower prices to the average person because, well, it's not like people get paid much to do farming in the Americas in general, especially Latin America and South America. So who knows how that's going to happen, but I found it to be quite interesting. The next bit of news is here in North America with Canada and Mexico. Their ties are kind of strained, and you will not guess why. It's because of Trump. Trump's tariff threats have caused Canadian officials to be somewhat vocal about their feelings regarding Mexico's borders. You see, Trump said that if both Canada and Mexico didn't deal with their border security, they're going to impose tariffs on both countries. Now, Canadian officials have stated that it was rather insulting to be compared to Mexico's border problems, given that they don't have as much of an issue with smuggling drugs as the southern border of the United States has. At the same time, however, Ontario officials in particular criticized Mexico's lack of Chinese EV tariffs, but this is mostly because Ontario has a massive car industry connected to the United States. They have a hard dependency of the US automotive industry being particularly strong. And Canada has 100% tariffs on Chinese EVs. Mexico doesn't because Mexico doesn't have to protect against a car. They don't have to protect a car industry. Mexico just doesn't actually have one. We have a lot of manufacturing plants, but all of them are from foreign brands. So there's no need to have tariffs. So this has caused some issues between Mexico and Canada's relationship. A lot of people from both sides have been kind of stating that it's not really sensible to be fighting amongst each other, but I found it interesting that Trump says something and its two partner countries are the ones that start fighting amongst each other. So, yeah, the next piece of news that I read had to do with Niger. I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce this. A I saw a woman say, "Hey, this is pronounced Niger," or and I'm reading it as Niger. I'm gonna read it as Niger just because it's further away from a certain word that I don't really want to mention. So Niger it is. Sorry, I'm gonna have to fact check this later. But anyways, last year, last July, there was something of a coup in Niger, a military takeover, and well, the new rulership, the new administration is not a very big fan of the West. In particular, they're not a very big fan of France. You see, Niger used to be a French colony. They got independence in 1960, but France was still able to get exclusive rights to the uranium exports of Niger through various deals and trade. The country, although only produces 5% of the global uranium output, is still enough to put it in the top 10 uranium producers of the world. It's a particularly big component of nuclear power plants, and well, yeah, it's kind of a big deal. A big part of their economy comes from this. Anyways, the point is, the military forces last year took control of the country. The new administration is not a very big fan of the West in general and France, and they just took control of a uranium mine, essentially pushing out and kicking out all of the French operations out there. They still have access and power over the mine, but the company that set it up essentially lost control of it. Niger is looking to make new friendships with countries such as Russia and Turkey. And well, we exactly don't know how this is going to play out. The French government does not currently recognize Niger's administration. So, yeah, relationships are tense to say the least. Whether or not this actually leads to Niger having more of an impactful role for Russia's nuclear power, who knows? They're still kind of looking to establish themselves, but whether or not they manage to, create a relationship with Turkey and Russia is still up in the air. Last and not least, by a long shot, the United Healthcare shooter suspect has been arrested. Luigi Mangione is the suspect of shooting the United Healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson. I have seen a lot of news regarding this. I felt like it was kind of important to put it here, but I also have to be honest, a lot of people have been talking about this, a lot of people have been mentioning this. You probably already know about this because this has been all over the place. Everyone knows about it, everyone's talking about it. There's not much that I can say to really add to this conversation, but it is kind of a big deal in the sense that the killing of a health insurance CEO and this whole like debacle demonstrating how broken the US healthcare system is and whatnot is still an interesting topic of conversation. Now, I can't say I condone murder because, I mean, it's not really going to change anything in the broken system, but it is an understandable act at the very least. Sadly, yeah, I don't think much is going to change. Whether or not this person really gets prosecuted, it has been noted that he is actually fairly wealthy. He's probably going to be able to pay a good lawyer. Whether or not he gets scot free, who knows? But it is definitely interesting to see that this was caused not by someone that had financial struggles as much as someone that got fucked over by the US healthcare system as much as the next guy. So I thought it was interesting to mention. It was kind of necessary to mention, but that is about it. So yeah, thank you very much for seeing the very first episode of This Week in Business. And hopefully, I managed to make the next one a little bit sooner. Also, as you can see, I don't have much of a script. I'm just kind of yapping about things. I'm probably going to edit this a little bit, but I'm trying to be a bit more natural with this. I'm trying to just kind of give you the notes and a bit of an overview about these pieces of news. So, yeah, that's about it. Thanks for watching and have a good day. Goodbye.